at the far reaches of a quiet Texas town where the sunsets spilled gold. Across fields of mesquite and cedar, Jack and Lillian McAllister lived a life built on roots, hard work, and a kind of honor you couldn't fake. Their farmhouse, with its faded white siding and weather-worn porch, had stood proud for more than 40 years, a living testament to promises kept and struggles endured. Jack rocked gently in the creaky porch swing, his old straw hat shading his eyes, while Lillian sat beside him, knitting a soft blue blanket for their newest great-grandchild. The world around them was still, peaceful, alive with the faint rustle of an evening breeze and the steady hum of crickets, beginning their nightly chorus. They didn't know that within minutes, their quiet world would be shattered. A low, menacing growl of an engine tore through the stillness. Jack sat up straighter, his instincts prickling. A black SUV rolled onto their gravel driveway, headlights off, plates missing, doors slammed. 3 men spilled out, dressed in dark uniforms that shimmered under the porch light, badges crookedly pinned to their chests. The badges gleamed, but something about them looked cheap, like they belonged in a Halloween costume aisle. The tallest man marched toward the house, his heavy boots kicking up little clouds of dust. "You're in violation of HOA code," he barked, waving a clipboard that looked suspiciously blank. "Open up for inspection now." Lillian, ever trusting, paused her knitting and glanced at Jack, confusion furrowing her brow. But Jack remained still. There was no HOA here. No board, no rules, only common sense and neighborly respect. Jack opened his mouth to tell them they were mistaken, but before he could speak, the second man lunged forward. His fist cracked against Lillian's cheek with sickening force, sending her sprawling off the porch swing. Her frail body hit the wooden steps with a dull, heartbreaking thud. Time froze. Jack's breath caught in his chest. His beloved Lillian, his heart, his life lay crumpled and still, her knitting needles clattering across the boards, the half-made blanket unraveling into chaos. Rage flooded Jack's veins, but he kept it locked behind his teeth, his fists curling at his sides. The leader sneered, mistaking Jack's stillness for fear. "You can make this easier, old man," he growled, stepping onto the porch, stepping onto sacred ground with filthy boots. But Jack McAllister was not afraid. Inside the house behind him was everything he'd built, every memory, every promise, and just beyond that battered oak door waited something else, something these boys weren't ready for. Jack shifted slightly, subtle enough to go unnoticed. His mind, honed by decades of survival, sharpened into focus. He moved back toward the door, each step deliberate, purposeful, ignoring the jeers of the intruders behind him. They thought he was retreating. They were wrong. Inside, above the fireplace, hung the old AR-15 he had carried through years of service overseas, a reminder of battles fought for home and family. It wasn't just a weapon. It was part of him. Jack grabbed it, his hands steady despite the surge of adrenaline. He checked the magazine at 20 rounds, each one a promise of protection. Without hesitation, he turned back toward the door, heart pounding in rhythm with the ancient drumbeat of duty. Outside, the intruders laughed, boasting about debts and liens and nonsense accusations. They thought they had won. They hadn't even started to lose yet. The tall one kicked over Lillian's basket of yarn, scattering it across the porch like fallen hopes. Another banged the clipboard against the doorframe, shouting demands, threats. Jack's hands tightened around the rifle's worn grip. He was not a man given to violence, but there were lines you did not cross, and they had crossed every one of them. The door shuddered under the weight of the men trying to break in. Jack planted his feet, raising the R-15 to his shoulder, sighting down the barrel with calm precision. He didn't flinch when the door burst open. The first man stumbled inside, eyes wild, mouth twisting into a smirk that lasted less than a second. Jack squeezed the trigger. A crack echoed through the farmhouse, sharp and final. The intruder crumpled instantly, falling where he stood. The second man, just a heartbeat behind, caught to round center mass before he could even process what was happening. He dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. Silence. The third man, the one who had hit Lillian, froze in the doorway, eyes wide with terror. For one breathless moment, he stood there, teetering between fight and flight. He chose wrong. Turning on his heel, he bolted toward the SUV. Jack stepped onto the porch, the boards groaning under his boots, and raised the rifle again with methodical steadiness. One shot. It rang out across the open field, striking the would-be attacker's hand and sending the stolen pistol he'd tried to grab flying into the dirt. The man screamed, dropping to his knees, cradling his shattered hand. Jack advanced no further. He didn't need to. He stood tall, a sentinel, the quiet embodiment of resolve forged through a lifetime of trials. His figure silhouetted against the porch light, rifle still steady, gaze unwavering. Red and blue lights appeared on the horizon, sirens wailing through the night. Real lawmen, drawn by reports of disturbance, rushed toward the farmhouse. Jack remained still as the deputies poured onto the property. They took in the Cinto bodies in the doorway, one wounded assailant sobbing in the dirt, and Jack McAllister standing over them like a monument. Sheriff Cole Richardson, an old family friend, approached cautiously, hat in hand. "Jack," he said, voice low with respect, "you did everything right." There was no pride in Jack's expression, only the grim certainty of a man who had kept his prometto Lillian to himself, to the land that had raised him. Paramedics swarmed around Lillian, checking her vitals, murmuring words of relief when she stirred, bruised but breathing, fighting still, just like Jack knew she would. The imposters were quickly identified as members of a criminal ring that had been preying on the elderly across several counties, using fake HOA claims to intimidate and rob. But they hadn't counted on Jack McAllister. On that porch, they'd met something stronger than fear. They had met an unbreakable spirit. The town rallied around Jack and Lillian. News spread fast. Headlines spoke of the McAllister stand. Letters poured in from across the country, veterans, farmers, ordinary citizens, all thanking them for reminding the nation what true courage looked like. The city council voted unanimously to designate the McAllister farmhouse a historic landmark. A bronze plaque was mounted beside the porch swing, polished until it gleamed. It read, "Here stands the McAllister home, a symbol of honor, family, and justice." Jack and Lillian resumed their evening rituals, side by side on the porch, watching the sunset in a blaze of color across their fields. They said little, letting the silence between them carry the weight of a lifetime. Jack knew that if the world asked him again to choose to surrender, or to stand, he would choose exactly the same, without hesitation, without regret, forever.